Okay, so going through what we studied yesterday was key influencer. We just started on it, right? So key influencer is a type of a visual in Power BI. So you click on key influencer, right? My apologies, sorry. Can you see my screen now? Yeah. So as I said, like key influencer was is a type of a visual that we were exploring yesterday. Okay. So one of the example that we saw was Sachin Tendulkar's batting records, right? So I don't know why it is still here. So as you know, for every innings that he has played, there is one row, right? So we have almost 347 rows. So he played almost 347 test innings, and we have one row for each inning. So we'll just try to evaluate, whether he has scored a century or he has when he has scored a century, which influencers or which variables affected it the most, right? So for now, I'll add a calculated column over here, uh, just for our understanding, because there is no column which says that he scored 100 plus run, right? So I'll just add this. We'll explore how to create calculated columns and visuals later on as well, but this is just for now. Right, so I have yes for every century that he has scored, right? So I'll go over here and I'll add this. So whenever I click on the key influencer, there is analyze, explain by, and expand by, right? So I will go over here and I'll say analyze my century. Okay, so I want what influences century to be yes. Okay, so whenever I go and add a ground in explain by, it will try to see if there is any pattern between the ground that he scored a century and a century that he has scored. I'll add a position over here, and it tells me that the whenever the opposition is Bangladesh, he is more likely to score a century. I'll add a result of the match. If result of the match is even has a later stage, so that won't be the good conclusive evidence. Apart from that, the position he batted in, right? So if I add position he batted in, and is there any pattern? No. The dismissal type, I'll add dismissal type. So mostly, as we see, whenever he is not out, he's likely to score a century. So not a very great insight here. Okay. Yesterday we saw number of sixes he scored scores in an innings. So let's see if I had sixes and fours. So yeah, so more like if he's scoring a lot of fours, he's going to score a century. Now this could be one insight. Another one is fours. The number of fours, if he scores 13 or 14 in an innings, he's likely to score a century. So not very great insights, but again, this is we are trying to understand what are the reasons, what are the variables that are influencing him to score a century, right? So another thing that we can also look at, another data set, is that we have a data set of every batsman who has scored a century in test innings, right? So I will add a key influencer here again, and I will look at inning score buckets. Okay, so if I look at the inning score buckets, then I have 0 to 49, 100 to 49. So pretty much buckets of runs that people have scored. And then along with that, I can add ground. Okay, I can add opposition. I can add, what else it could be, country. Let's add country. Okay, and then when I say I want to see what influences a batsman to score runs between 100 to 149, right? And let's see what it gives me. So it tells me that when ground is Cardiff or ground is Rajkot, he is more likely to the batsman is more likely to score a century than any other grounds. This Gross Islet is a small county club in Australia. Pallekele is against Sri Lanka. St John's is West Indies. So it gives me some sort of a trend, right? It tells me that whether uh, what is influencing a batsman to score a century. And then the other option that we have is top segments. So if you look at top segments, we have different segments. So it tells us that 1.9% of the data belongs in 1% of segment, which is country is England, and opposition is not these many. Okay, then it it tells me that it is 1.9% of innings scored buckets is 100 to 149, and it is not greater than average. So if I add learn more about this segment, then it tells me that what is the characteristics of this data, right? So based on the explained by influences that I've added, it tells me about what more it can tell me about this segment. So let's wait. PC is running a little slow today. So it tells me that these are the grounds that most affect the distribution, right, with the opposition. And there is some sort of a comparison that we see. So what key influencer does is that we ask him to analyze something, and it explains by the variables that I've added in this visualization, and it tells me how much percent of data it belongs in each category. So that is what key influencers is about. And I'll also explain the background mathematics. So background mathematics or background algorithm that it generally uses is not purely linear, not purely but loosely based on linear regression and logistics regression, which I will explain in the coming stages of our sessions. But for now, just think of it key influencers as a way in which you can look at one variable and see why that one variable is giving some certain outcome. So that is all you need to think about key influencers for now. And we'll explain and deep dive again with the algorithms, and then we'll again come back to this visual and try to see like why it gives certain numbers and certain variables and certain influences that affect the decision. So another example in real world of this key influencers is, let's say if I'm working in supply chain, for my order to get delayed, right? Which is my shipping country? Who is the most likely customer? Which is the most likely product, right? So I can analyze my data according to this situation, right? If I'm getting good sales, who is most likely to be my sales manager? Who is most likely to be my segment of the customer, right? You can look at those variables and say, okay, if if the data category falls into this category, most likely my sales is getting higher, right? Just like we saw, if the ground is Cardiff or ground is Rajkot, most likely someone will score a century there. So that is how the key influencers operate in this situation. Any questions? I know it could be, yeah. You're on mute. Sorry. No, no. So it doesn't create it automatically. I have created it when I was preparing the data. So so you can always like the one that I have created here, that century for Sachin Tendulkar, just like that, I had created long time back for this data set. Yeah, so that is, yeah. Sure. So whenever we are measuring any numerical data, it tells us by two categories: increase or decrease, right? So increase or decrease. So as you see, it doesn't see much data over here because it is looking at a data size which has lot of resultant variables, right? What I had done, like I grouped them in certain categories, so it became easier for it to look at the data and say, try some get some inferences out of it, right? I'll explain this why it is not showing here right now, because that, like, when we'll go through the logistic and linear regression, I'll explain that in detail. But for now, just think that it has a lot of numbers to look at, right? And because it has a lot of numbers to look at, it is not able to group them in a category and say, okay, this is the trend that I see. But but if we, now that I have bucketed him, it became easier for him to, okay, group the data and split the data and come to some sort of analysis that, okay, these are the likelihood scenarios. Right, 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 exactly, exactly. Right, right, right. So it, you can use that using this drop down, like you, like the buckets that I've created, you can create these buckets using calculated columns, and using these buckets you can change and toggle between, right? Yeah, no, no, multiple, I'm not sure. I don't think we can select multiple. It is telling you for one specific uh, variable for now. So like between this bucket, these are the likelihood variables. Hmm. Okay, so you want this over here in this, you're saying? So I don't know why it is such a slow today, Power BI. So run stored buckets. Okay, I'll close it and I'll start again Power BI. Yes, yes, I can hear you. Maybe not now. Go ahead, Kostu. Yeah, go ahead. Like, can you all hear me, or is it my screen is frozen? You can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Yeah, that's true. So, so we can get that using key influences, but the only problem is that the it's not a very, I would say, like when we are working in machine learning, everything that we do is has to be really precise. This is more of a generalist guideline, like these are the things, those are influencing. But if you really want to make sure that your accuracy and your precision is to the point, you should use a proper ML algorithm, the case that you mentioned. Yeah, but for generalist cases, like we are just trying to evaluate what is influencing what. So in that case, for a guidance point of view, this is good. So yes, so you said the buckets you want in the uh, mhm. Right, right. So see, it tells you over here that ground has more than 10 unique values. So it may impact the quality of analysis, right? So now you say there are a lot of. So I'll take the one that was showing, which was Rajkot, I guess. So if I take Rajkot over here, so it tells me the innings scored buckets is most likely to be 100 to 114. Right, right, right. Like you can inverse it in both direction, right? So when I was taking this bucket over here and Rajkot like grounds over here, it was showing me the same thing. So it is telling me that those things are correlated. But as we learn in statistics, is correlation is not necessarily the causation. Like like if I go and go to Rajkot, I won't score a century against Mitchell Stark, but still like it could be correlated because anyone who would be playing there has a good chance because the bounce is not as huge as the one in other grounds. So, like it is more of correlation, not causation. Yeah, 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 yeah. We can. No, in analyze we can at the same time just do one. At one we can just understand only one parameter, not multiple. Yeah. Yes, Nikhil. Hmm. So how they are related, right? So it is more of tries to tell us that based on the data set that we have, what are the most common patterns that it sees, right? So it tells us that whenever we are having ground Rajkot, most of the innings buckets that it sees are scored are between 100 to 49, 100 to 149 across other buckets. So it tells us that what is the most likelihood scenario. So it looks at all the scenarios and like let's say Niket goes to DMart for 5 times. Out of 5 times, 3 times he purchases bread, right? So you have 5 rows of data, out of which 3 times you have a line of bread in it, right? So whenever Niket, I say what influences Niket DMart customer. If I select Niket, out of 5 times, 3 times you have purchased bread. So the here it would say product is most likely to be bread. So so it looks at common occurrences here. Yes, it we could say that, but not necessarily, because why I'm saying this is those things are correlated but not causing each other, right? So so my height and my weight are correlated to each other, but my weight gain has nothing to do with my height. But as person height increases, uh, your weight likely increases, right? But that's why I would be very careful if I would say that dependent and independent, because correlation is not causation. But I would say those two things are correlated to each other. I would definitely say that. So I would say these two things correlated to each other. Yeah, because it looks at common occurrences, it just tells like there is no variance, or there is no mathematical calculation over here. It just looks at the data and says what are the common occurrences across all, and it tells okay, these are the common occurrences. That's it. So as I said, like the backend calculation is little difficult in this case, and that's why it is easy for us to use, in a I would say in a easygoing format. Like you can just say okay, these two things are correlated to each other, but not necessarily uh, like dependent, because we don't have a very good mathematical uh, reasoning behind it to prove that, if that makes sense. Sorry, could you please repeat? Yeah, so it is used. So when I was working for a supply chain domain, they were trying to look at what are the open orders, right? So open orders are the ones which are yet to be shipped. Okay, so it could be shipped from today to, let's say, 10 days onwards. So they were trying to evaluate which of the open orders in the past got delayed, right? So based on that, whichever future orders they would be coming in, open orders, they were trying to estimate which is most likely to get delayed. So they would look at historical data and they would say, okay, my historical order was delayed. Which was the most common shipping partner? Was it UPS, DHL, or all the others? Which was the most likelihood distribution center which would cause delay? Which are the most likelihood products? So they would look at these patterns, and they knew that all these patterns will not all the time be true, but those are some common occurrences that we see in the data. So that was the one that we had used. So as you said, it is used, but not a very to the point ML accuracy calculation. Yes, Sachin. So that is something that we can provide over and above, like, because what happens is, like, I've seen situations where people would go by this analysis, right? People would stick to this and say, okay, this is the most likelihood scenario, and only this will happen. Now that would be very wrong assumption, I would say, because this is giving you just, yeah, yeah, yeah. So be very careful when you're using this, uh, like, and you have to educate users that whenever you're using it, how to read this. So yeah, this is something that over and above the reports, because most people would like to see the historical trends and historical data, because what happens is that you and I will be able to answer why this is 3.24x, but not someone else who is not very user of, like, using Power BI every day. So then it becomes difficult for them to come to terms that why this is showing a number which I'm not able to explain, right? And then that becomes a major problem, and eventually leads to a point where people might say it's a wrong dashboard. So be very careful. But yes, this is something which is over and above of the dashboard ask that people would come to you. Yes, Kaustubh. Yes. Right, right. Yes, definitely we can. We can. Let's say, like, we can look at a bowler's record. Uh, if you have a ball by ball data, right? How every, like, if you have a good data to analyze it, you can definitely use this for that use case you have mentioned. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So when you go to this top segments, so right now it says he didn't found anything. So I'll again take this, and I'll take. Okay. So based on the explain by variables that I've added, it created a cluster of data. Okay. And it tells me that these are the five segment he has created. Okay. And what is the population count in the data, right? So population count means number of observation in each of this segment, right? So if I click on this segment, it tells me that what is the key characteristics of this segment, and most likely the country India and ground is not Lords. And then if I learn more about this segment, it runs the analysis and tells me what is the key characteristics of this data. So it created a cluster of data sets based on the explain by that I've created, and it's trying to get some patterns out of it and give us some sort of insights. So it tells me that which opposition, right, and how much is the percentage of records. So that is how, you can come to some get some more idea about the data. So this is also very useful when you are trying to understand any data and you don't know what's happening. So you can use this key influencers and try to get some sort of relativity between the data. Yes, yes, exactly. So it creates a clusters based on the observation, and it tells the characteristics of each clusters. So yeah, yes, Shripal, please. Yes, please. Okay. Yes, we can. Okay. Yeah, we will. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. 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 So what you can do is create a calculated column. So go above. Yeah. New column, not measure, right? Okay. And here you can say profit percent or whatever. Okay. Is equal to divide. No, no, not divid. Divide. The numerator would be your sales. So type sales, comma, and then sorry, it would be numerator would be profit and divide by sales. Yes. Yes. Enter. And that should give you profit percent, and then you can change it this to percentage. Yeah. Okay. 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 So add, like, you want to create a bucket for that. Okay. So the you want to see, let's say threshold is 20%. So whatever is greater than 20%, you want to create a flag, right? Okay. So add another. So okay. So add if condition over here. Uh, Before divide, just type if. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you can do that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. If type if here, if bracket open, right, and just go to the end of here. So you want to say anything greater than or is equal to 20, right? No, just after the bracket is closed. Yeah. Greater than or equal to 20. No, it's not space sensitive, so it's fine. Is equal to. Yes. Yes, that should be fine. Yeah, that should be fine. Point 0.2, 0.2. Okay, 0.3. Okay, comma. Uh, I'm not sure if the. Okay, let's try. And then just type in double quotes yes, and comma, double quotes no. Bracket complete. Now just ignore that, like delete that greater than sign for now. Let's see. Just delete that. Okay, enter. And now add that greater than sign before the is equal to sign. Yeah. Now press enter. So okay, so then you want to take less than 30%, right? So okay, then type 30. Mm, no, no percent. It won't take. Let's take. No. Uh, just take point 0.3, 0.3. Okay. Yeah. Enter. Yeah, because it's profit number, not the percent. That is the. Yeah. 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 Now go to your tab, yeah, and add the profit percent. Yeah, yeah, that is okay. That signifies that you have created a calculated column. Okay. Okay. Try changing the profit value to yes or no. So there is no pattern that it sees over here. Yeah. Add other variables. Yeah. Go for region segment state. Yeah. Yes. Yes. You can see that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll start sharing again before I forget. I'm sharing, right? Can you all see me? Okay. Okay. So we saw key influencers, right? The other thing I wanted to also go through is smart narrative. Okay. So I'll import data again. So I create one chart, basic chart, right? Category wise sales I see. Mhm. Now, if I want to build some sort of a story out of it, right? What I'll do, I'll click on this chart and I'll say smart narrative. Okay. So it runs some analysis and it tells me that which is the most profitable, or which is the most which category has the highest sale, which has the lowest sale, right? Which has the highest sum of sales. So it tells me some sort of a narrative or analysis, right? And good thing is I can edit or I can add more things. I can type anything, right? So you can always run this sort of narrative analysis and add some textual more color to it. So this is how the smart narrative works. Uh, and that's pretty much it. Like that is also little, I would say it's little related to Q&A, but Q&A is more of interactive. This is more of, it just generates a narrative or story out of it from the chart that you have created. Okay, cool. So in terms of visualizations, we saw first few here, right? We saw some of the, so we saw decomposition tree, we saw Q&A, which is over here. We have also just seen smart narrative. We have seen key influencers, right? We have seen slicers as well. A lot of slicers actually. The remaining part is missing, right? All these visualizations. Uh, what I would recommend is try at your end. Okay, so let's take donut chart for example, right? Take this donut chart and you can see what are the properties related to this chart. So you can say I want to see legend category wise sales, right? So just like that, you have created a donut chart. So what I would explain is, what I would request is go through all these chart once. Definitely we'll explore these all charts, like each and every one of them with scenarios. But for now, I think you guys are good enough to create these charts by yourself, and we'll go through one by one uh, later. Like we'll go through these charts together once again. But for now, I think now what we have seen so far, right? We can build a visual, right? We know how to import data, how to change format of data, right? How filters can be used. We know the entire options in the pane above, right? I would again request you to go through all these options and let me know if you don't know any one of them. The DAX ones that we are going to take, so DAX is still pending, right? So we know how to look at data. So pretty much we know what happens in the Power BI by fair amount, right? So now I wanted to actually go through this transform data option, okay? And once you click on this transform data, what you see is a new window pops up, and this new window is called as Power Query. Okay, what this Power Query does is that it prepares your data. So if you see over here, the stages of Power BI development. Okay, so look at this, right? So it tells me local machine means that I can do all of these options using just Power BI desktop without any license. So the first step of development of report is that we first connect the data or import the data, right? This, yes. Yeah, okay. So is it better? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry. So as you can see, the local machine signifies what I can do in Power BI desktop. Online means that what I can achieve in Power BI service. Okay. So Power Query and Power BI desktop both are achievable using Power BI desktop that we have. So first stage is the extract, like connecting to multiple data sources, right? In Power Query. Then transform means what we can do mostly like in Excel kind of thing. But yeah, like the transform, let's say you want to clean some data, remove some rows, add some rows, all extract, transform, load related options you can achieve through Power Query. Okay. So the first stage would be whenever you are developing a new report, you should connect it to data source. The second stage should be Power Query, right? Although we have not gone through that flow, because I feel that if I start with Power Query directly, people might get bored or people might find it very technical thing, but it's not technical at all. So second stage of your development should be transform using Power Query. The third should be modeling, and when anyone says modeling in Power BI context, it should be joining two tables together and creating relationships between them, right? So whenever you are importing two, three tables, how these two, three data sources or two, three tables talk to each other is what call as modeling. Okay. And how do we achieve that? We'll go through it, right? The next stage is the calculation. So just one that we saw while Shripad was sharing screen, that creating a calculation, DAX calculation. DAX means data analysis expressions. We'll have a separate sessions when we'll go through that. So that should be the next step. And apart from that, then we come to visualizations, like how to build charts, right? How to format it, how to put lipstick on it and make sure it looks beautiful. And then the next is publish it to Power BI service. And now once the dashboard is ready, we'll publish it to Power BI service. And once we deploy in Power BI service, then we share it to multiple stakeholders, auto schedule, right? So this should be the flow of dashboard development in Power BI. Okay. So it might be possible that you must be saying what is modeling, what is DAX. Totally fine. It's okay if you don't understand, but try to make sure that whenever you are importing data, first step should be whatever transformations that you should be doing should be in Power Query, right? And then push it to front end. So I'll talk what Power Query is, but any questions in this case? This should be the like kind of a bible for Power BI development. Okay. Okay. So as you know, if you go to this transform data tab, right? If you go here and transform data, it opens up new window, right? For now, just think that it is the backend of Power BI, right? So Power BI visualizations is front end, and whatever Power Query, that is backend. Okay. Now, if you see on the top, you will see options which are very, maybe some options that you have already seen, right? So if you say new source, you'll again see Excel, SQL analysis. This is something that we already seen in Power BI get data option in the front end, right? And if you click on more, you have again same options, right? That you can see. Yes, yes, right. Then the recent, so I don't know why my Power BI is acting up today. Yeah. So as you can see, this is the same window that you see while importing data in front end, right? All those databases that you can see over here, right? Recent sources, what are the recent sources that you have taken, right? Enter data, we have explored this, right? Copy pasting the data in Power BI. I can take my Excel and copy paste the data, right? I can take this, copy this, new table is created. Okay. In Now in Power Query language, anytime you import a data, this is called as queries. Okay, for every new table that you create, it calls it a query. Okay, the next is data source settings. So I have two Excel files connected to it. One is coming from, both are coming from user folder, right? So let's say you have a Excel file connected to Power BI, right? And let's say that Excel file gets refreshed or new file comes every day, right? So if you want to change it, how you can change it? Like if you want to change the location, let's say you had August data, you build a dashboard out of it, and let's say you go to September and new file comes into picture, right? So how would you replace the existing file, or how would you connect to different data source? So you can just, let's say this is the analysis that I've done, then you can do that through advanced editor, right? So if you click on this advanced editor, right, you can see there is a some sort of a programming language here, right? So this language is called as mashup or M code in Power BI, right? So I'm yet to come across someone who has actually written this code. Okay, but most of the developers that I know, they change or play around with this code, right? So let's say my file path is changed, right? This was my old file path. Now new file path is let's say on desktop. So what I'll do, I'll just replace this with new Power BI file, new Excel file path, and I'll say done, and then this data gets refreshed, and my dashboard gets refreshed automatically. Yes. Right, right. So one of the functionality is that you can replace the data source. So the other scenario would be, let's say you are, there is a dev environment and there is a prod environment. Okay, so there are two types of databases that you are playing with. One is in dev, one is in prod. Now you have connected to dev data source, right? And with dev data source you have connected to, let's say, one schema, right? Now you want to change it. Now you have built a dashboard based on development schema. Now you want to just change it to prod, right? So all you can do is just come here and from dev just change it to prod, and that's it. All the remaining transformation or all the remaining codes remain same, right? So you don't have to worry about anything at all, and dashboards get automatically refreshed provided you have the credentials for prod. Mhm. Right, right. So this source, you're saying this source in the update. Yeah, so even here if you want to change it, this is the exact element of this advanced editor, this step, source. So it's the same thing. Like you can do it from there or you can do it from here. It's the same thing. Uh, and the next, I would say, um, sort of a use case would be you can remove the columns that you don't want to. So let's say there are these many columns. Let's say I don't want city and country, right? So I can just take it and remove it, and then just put it done. Look, so those, yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, of course, of course, of course. You can do that. So but these are some use cases that I'm seeing. But yeah, the remove columns option is always there. uh, and let's say if you want to add a new column, you cannot add it using the Power Query options. You can do that. Let's say there are seven columns that you're using, out of which, while building first dashboard, you use just five, right? But now you want to add sixth column, which is not here right now. So you can do, like, you can type the column name here, keep like everything same, right? Just comma, column name, data type, and just done. Import. So that new columns get added without touching your existing dashboard. Which data pane? Okay, this one data pane? No, no, no. No, maybe I've conveyed this wrong. So you can create additional column using DAX in data pane, right? But using this Power Query, let's say when you are connecting to source, right? Let's say while building dashboard, you just took five columns and your source has seven columns. So the additional column which is at the source of your table can be added through this advanced editor, if that makes sense. Yes, you can. But when we are optimizing for, let's say, performance, right now we have a situation where, we always add extra columns as we build dashboard. Because if I add all the columns at one fly, my dashboard might get impacted, right? So when you are dealing with huge data set and you are building a star schema, let's say you have a fact table, right? And out of fact table you are just pulling columns which you only need, but later you realize that, oh shoot, I need to add one more column. Then you can type the column name over here and that gets added as well. So that is one functionality that you cannot achieve through any other option. Because if you have, at source you have 90 columns, and you want to pull, you have, first case you have pulled just 70. Now out of these 20, out of those 20 you want to put additional 10 columns. Then the one option that you have is pull all the data set again and then apply transformation. Or second option is keep everything as it is. In this case just add 10 columns now. I'm not Right. Yes, I can remove columns. Right. 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 Mhm. Absolutely, yes, agree. But that is after step. Like in the first step, when I'm pulling the data, and in that situation, if I've just pulled five columns, not the sixth column, right? And later I realized, and so first stage, the way we do it is like we use native queries. So native queries is something you just pull columns what you need and don't you add anything else. So I pulled five columns, right? Now sixth column I haven't added at all at any stage, right? So there is no point, there is no step of removing that column. So now later I say, oh shoot, I need to add the sixth column. So how will you do it? You only way to do it is using this option of columns names. You can just add the column name and that gets added. Right, right, right. Yes. So first is you pull the data and then the transformation gets started. So first step is extract data. So yes, you're right. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Okay. So advanced editor captures all the steps in the Power Query. Okay, so right from the beginning, when I even import data, even that stage step is captured, right? So first step is capturing the data source, right? Second stage is whatever it could be, promoted headers, right? And third step, or third step could be which columns that we are using, or it gets added sometimes in the first situation as well. So that is how, so advanced editor captures all the steps of Power Query. Mhm. So yes, if let's say I'll give you one example. So let's say this is the orders, right? And this is the advanced editor that I see, right? So this is the advanced editor. Right now it tells me this is the source that I pulled data from, this is the tab name, it promoted headers, and then it these are the columns it pulled, right? It tells me all that, right? Now let's say I do one transformation which is split call, okay, by delimiter. Do it something else. So let's say I do it by delimiter hyphen. Okay, let's just split the columns. Now, yeah, okay. So now it, yeah. So now it is split. Now I'll again go to advanced editor and see what has changed. See, now it has added additional step of change type and like two lines of code, right? So whatever that I do in the Power Query, every step is captured using import. Mhm. Okay. Which one? This one? This one. Okay. Separate step. Okay. 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 Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. So you're saying that if I change the code over here, will that appear in the applied steps or not? Yes. It. Okay. Okay. This one, right? Yeah. So okay, change type, and then I'll just change it to split column by delimiter. I need to change this also, but string. Yeah, yeah. So so maybe I can find some sort of a step, okay, which can do this part, okay. Yeah. So and then we'll explore whether that gets added or not, okay, because we need to. But one thing is for sure. Let's say if I go to this sample superstore, right? Mm, 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 mm. Where is it? Sample superstore. Here, now let's create a new column which Shripad created, right? So profit percent. Now, okay, profit percent. Now I say profit divided by sales, right? Now this new column is added, right? Now I want to add this new column to Power BI without importing entire data set and applying all the transformations. What I can do, I'll just copy this, right? Go to the advanced editor and I will say, hope I don't mess up the format. Because what could be other way of adding the column, right? And let's see, copy the column name. Yes. And let's see if it comes. It is giving me some sort of error because my file is still open. So I'll close the file, save the file, and close it. Now let's see. Yeah. So this new column is added over here, profit percent. So this is the one example that you can use. One scenario that you can try and say this new column that gets added to the source. Now I hope like now it makes sense why. Yeah. Yes, Shripa. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. VB editor. I've never used it, but yeah, it captures all the steps. So it is that kind of Visual Basic editor. Hmm. Right, 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 yeah, right, 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 right. Exactly. So we don't change anything in data source, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So right, absolutely. So if the data source is changed, the prod to dev version is changed, new columns are added, right? It is easier to play that with using advanced editor. Okay. So that is one scenario that I always feel like you would always develop a dashboard in Excel or that like database, you would pull certain columns. And if there are new columns that are added, then you need to specify those columns that are added, right? So that is something that if you want to add a new column, you can do that using advanced editor. So that is something that I would highly recommend. But yeah, so most of the time, like 90% of your cases, you won't need advanced editor. But again, like this was one situation that we always encounter with. So we have data in Snowflake, and we always do native queries. So we write select column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4 from this table. And then later we realize, okay, we need this column as well. So then add that additional column. But Niket, yes, what I'll do, I'll identify one step and I'll create a, and I'll, by next session, we'll see if I write the entire step, can I add the additional steps or not? Okay. So we'll explore. Okay. Okay. So, okay. So I'll just, I'll move this. Okay. No, no, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, so we'll do it later. It's totally fine. Actually, because you are asking these questions, actually, we are learning so much. So appreciate that. I mean, because we want to look at problem statement from different perspectives. So it's really good. No, no worries. Uh, so yeah, I mean, so what we'll do in next session is we will explore this Power Query entirely and make sure that we are learning this, right? We'll explore all the options, right? So if you are aware of Excel, you will see these kind of uh, options over in Excel as well. So if you go to Excel and there is a data tab, right? And if in the data tab you see this get data from text or CSV from tables, right? So it is little related to the Power Query in Excel, but this is more enriched and more advanced version. So in the next session, we'll go through all of these options together. And only thing that I won't be able to cover is this Azure machine learning because it needs premium license. But I'll try to find some good content and I can share it with you and find some use cases as well. And then we can go ahead and explore all these options. Okay. So yeah, that is something for this. And just wait. So this was the one meme that I had. Is can you all see? I hope you all can see this. So this is the one meme that I always think it makes sense. Is whenever someone is exporting data into Power Query, into yeah, they do it, man. They do it more than we think. so yeah, this is something that nice meme. So yeah, thank you for joining the session, and I hope to see you all next weekend. Thank you.